Just don't F me up.
Hey, welcome back to the shit show, everybody.
Shooby doopy doopy bow.
Oh, there it is. Are
Shooby
you
doop
already
bow.
dissociated?
Already, I'm already dissociated.
Isn't that your dissociation song?
That is my bad. My bee. I just thought it was a cool little. I love to scat, and if you listen to NPR at all, especially in around the early 2000s, scatting was a thing, and I'm good at it, no matter what my family says.
Okay, well, all right.
What is
I have no idea what that is, so we're just.
Scatting. It's like jazz, like
Oh
yeah.
yeah, you are good at that. You are really good at it.
Thank you. I played alto sax in high school, so
Oh my God, fancy.
you know, right? That's
Oh,
right. Welcome to the Shit Show. This is Just Don't F Them Up, a podcast from two moms who are also therapists who are trying their damnedest not to F up their kids because we live in constant fear all the time.
yep.
So this was one of our coping mechanisms. We thought, let's make a podcast. We'll learn together with a community of fellow individuals who are trying not to F up their kiddos. This podcast is brought to you by absolutely no one because we have 20 followers.
20 though, that means way more than our parents.
That's more than our parents. That's more than our immediate families.
So this podcast is brought to you by us.
By the blood, sweat, and tears that we obviously put into this because it's been going so smoothly.
Because how many times have I said we are complete dumbasses at all of this?
We're hoping that lands for folks, that we have no idea what we're doing. This is episode 3, and it's the first time we've introduced the name of our podcast. So, whoa. Got 20 followers. We're coming for you, Kelsey Brothers. You might be the #1 podcast for sports, but we're going to be the #1 podcast for parents. So
we're on the rise. Okay, we got 20 followers.
We're on the rise. So move over, Kelsey Brothers. All right now.
Well, I'm so excited because we have our first guest on our show today. So pumped.
So pumped.
Megan, do you want to introduce yourself and kind of let people know what you do and give us a little background before we start firing all our obnoxious questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am Megan Keating. I am a social worker in the state of Minnesota, a clinical social worker. And so I do mental health therapy. I'm a therapist. I'm newer into the field. I just graduated in May from my master's program. So I have about a little over a year of experience as a therapist. And wow, it is quite the world to enter into right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Post Panny, post Trump, post George Floyd,
post COVID with children is really interesting, which definitely we'll talk about today. But yeah, I work with kind of everyone. I'm really not in a specialty right now. And so that's also super interesting to see how mental health is kind of unfolding in this era right now for all different diagnoses, all different populations. It's quite fascinating and also quite disheartening as well.
Yeah, we start this episode with welcome to the shit show, but when we first met, I should have said welcome to the shit show of mental health and navigating the healthcare system as it's crumbling before your feet. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Hopefully we'll still have jobs or a way to get paid for the jobs that we're doing. Please sponsor us.
We're trying to come up with multiple revenues of income because we don't know if AI is going to take over our job.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about our field that I'm also not super nervous about is so many people come to therapy for that connection and for, because a lot of people are just there. they want skills, but they also just want someone to listen, not a robot to listen to their phones and spew back.
So
Logic.
true. So true. Logic. Speaking of logic,
Yeah.
we came out to you with a plea of please teach us about Love and Logic parenting curriculum, because that's just a great title for it. And as I was looking into it, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Logic.
It's logical. Yeah.
It's
And
loving.
so we
It's
mostly love
loving.
our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you find Love and Logic?
It was funny. Because I, of course, was in school this past from 2022 to 2023. And so I had my internship, my clinical internship, and my supervisor was basically like, hey, I am certified to teach this. Do you want to be certified? And I was like, sure. Had no clue what it was. And lots of emotions as I was being taught this curriculum.
Yeah. Will you just explain a little bit about what it is?
For sure. And so basically what Love and Logic is their overarching goal is to raise children to be responsible, loving, caring, functioning humans of society is essentially what their goal is. And so within that goal, there's different lessons kind of in the curriculum, and some I get behind and some I have a harder time personally with it, but there's been a lot of success. It's interesting because it's a dad and a son, Jim and Charles Fay, that created this curriculum. I believe it was the dad that first created it, but the son followed in dad's footsteps. And so they, in the actual curriculum, if you're being taught it, it's a bunch of videos. So it's the two of them presenting, and they're really funny. They use a lot of humor to kind of connect with parents. And so I think that's why a lot of parents do well with this curriculum is they're like, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna, and it's just real and kind of raw. So yeah. And a really big part of Love and Logic is ensuring that your children take responsibility for their actions, whether that's something that they did wrong, like they hurt someone's feelings, or if they forgot something, or any mistake, is just taking responsibility and not taking responsibility for your children's actions. So it kind of teaches parents how to do that. And also, like, eliminating power struggles is a really big one, and not engaging in arguments is a big one.
Talk dirty to me.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And they just simplify it. They make it very, very, very simple. And but I think it's easier said than done in this work. So yeah, those are like the two main they teach and that they focus on in the curriculum.
Cool. How does this work? Like, so do you teach like classes on it, or can people come meet with you one-on-one? And does it count as like a therapy service? So insurance would cover meeting with a Love and Logic person?
I don't think so. So basically it's just kind of like if you were to be in or certified in like CBT or DBT, where I could put that on and be like, I'm Love and Logic. But I think because it's just not super popular, like I don't think insurance companies right now would necessarily cover it. But essentially, like what I do is I have like this book, and it's just like a bunch of lessons. And so I will sometimes like copy a lesson and then give it to a parent and talk about it. So I won't necessarily with parents or caregivers go through the whole curriculum, because they might not need the whole curriculum. They just might need like one lesson. And so that's kind of where that comes in more.
Cool.
Some parents could use the whole curriculum, but
so I mean, like all kids, especially before 5, because they can't like emotionally regulate without their adult. That I think would be interesting then, to just like anybody could benefit from this. But then thinking about, because I'm in my mental health brain, like kiddos who are struggling with anxiety or trauma, or maybe a school bully, and they kind of bring that home and project it. Like, is it just one curriculum for everyone, or is there like specific schools for kiddos with certain struggles?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. And that was kind of one of my concerns with it. This curriculum was developed in the 70s by Jim. Jim is the dad. And so it doesn't leave a lot of room for specific struggles, specific trauma. And I think that they have a lot of work to do in that aspect, because there are some concerns I have with kind of invalidating emotions throughout it and that kind of thing. And so I really think that this curriculum would truthfully, it is not appropriate for families that have, like you said, trauma, or children with or diagnosed such as autism, PTSD, because it's just, I think it'd be a little invalidating. And I kind of see, I think, why.
Mm-hmm.
But,
So
Yeah.
definitely, it reminds me of what I say a lot when I'm teaching DBT is like, take what you like and leave what you don't. So there, it sounds like there's probably a lot of good pieces of this that we as parents can take and sort of practice. And there's some things that may not work in general, or just may not work in our specific situations, that
absolutely.
we could just let go of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's for a lot of things, right? Like there's not one thing that we're going to be like, hey, everybody do this and do this all the time, and it's going to work every single time and in every single situation, and no matter what, it's going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need lots of different things. So there's probably pieces of Love and Logic that we could take and use and combine with all of the other things that we're
exactly
trying to do. And in my case, lots of times failing at.
Absolutely.
Failing is just a first attempt in learning.
Bleh.
The other thing I was wondering about with since we're in like the kind of challenges of Love and Logic, is when I was looking at the website, it looked like there were pictures of the founders and it was just older white men. Wondering about applicability for like the BIPOC community, you know, LGBTQ plus parents, you know, same-sex parents. We've already kind of covered like maybe this isn't the best fit for people who have more serious mental health conditions. But yeah, have they looked into that, making that user-friendly for others?
I don't think so. And that was a big discussion that I had when I was getting trained in it with my supervisor and my good friend. We were both being trained in it at the same time. So we had a lot of open, honest conversations, especially being social workers and coming from that lens, because part of the curriculum is focusing so much on your child. And this curriculum is really, it's really intense. And if you were to follow all the steps of it, you would almost need to be a stay-at-home parent, because it's just like constantly navigating arguments and interactions with your child. And so for people that are lower income, that maybe work shift workers and or are just working around the clock, like, and they might not have time for this parenting curriculum, or even I think like split families, it would be really difficult, because it's just kind of a team effort. Not kind of, it is a team effort within this curriculum. It's flexible, but it's also rigid, and it's really confusing how I'm saying that. But yeah, like for example, one of the lessons in it is, say you have a 16-year-old and the 16-year-old doesn't want to go to school, or won't get up, or won't go to practice or something, and mom and dad have to leave the house, but the 16-year-old needs a ride, or the 10-year-old needs a ride. They teach you in the curriculum to say, okay, goodbye, and like leave the house, and have someone on standby outside of the house to come in and say, hi, your mom called me, you know, whatnot, to bring you to practice or wherever, but I'll need you to reimburse me for this, you know, like giving that responsibility fully to the child, to be like, even if it was like a 10, 9, 8-year-old. And so that just like doesn't really work for low income families, people that have multiple children and they need to get kids out the door.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not super updated, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
You could also see my kids would fully, it wouldn't matter who it was. If someone came over here and was like, yeah, I'm going to take you,
Yeah.
but you're going to have to pay me back, they would be like, no, I'm
Mhm.
not.
Right.
Or I'm not going with you. My mom said I could stay home. So
Mhm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
watch TV.
Yeah.
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 Exactly. So it's kind of like those lessons in there that I struggle with. And I also don't
Mhm.
think maybe are safe either.
Mhm.
So what are the ones that you tend to go to, like the useful
Yeah.
pieces, and like what can we use? What can we try with our kids?
Help
Yeah.
us.
Help us. Well, so one big part that they talk about in Love and Logic is deciding like what's an affordable argument or what's unaffordable. So this is along the lines of encouraging children to take responsibility for their actions or their mistakes. So they have like this whole list and you go through and you talk about it. But like, for example, a lot of parents, I've seen this debate online, is if my child forgets their lunch at school, do I bring it to them or do I not? And so they talk about that in there. And if you were to go the Love and Logic way, it would say, nope, there's school lunch, there's things available. Other parents don't believe that. But that is a way in which they're like, that's an affordable argument because they are able to eat still. Um, an unaffordable argument would be like safety. If your child's in the middle of the street and you're saying, hey, come back, and they're not, you're probably going to run out and get them because that could end badly. And
Mhm.
so that's first of all kind of where they talk about the affordable arguments first. So with there, of course, we're talking about the affordable arguments throughout the curriculum. And so when they first talk about taking responsibility, they really go step by step through arguments that you most likely have. And so they talk a lot about when you say your child says, like, I can't find my baseball glove. Where is my baseball glove? A lot of parents will instantly say, well, where did you leave it? Where did you, that right there, they say in Love and Logic is taking your child's problem and making it yours, because you're helping them is what your intent is. But a lot of the time that's children's way of being like, mom, I need you, or dad, I need you, or whomever to do this. The Love
Mhm.
and Logic response would be, oh, that's really hard. I'm really sorry that you can't find that. And and then of course the child may be like, well, I need help, or I need this, that, or the other thing. That's really difficult. Well, and just like kind of really pulling yourself away from that.
Mhm.
And I think it's such an interesting thing because I think parents, when I was first learning this curriculum, I was like, what the heck? Like that just seems so like rude or just so invalidating for kids. And they really talk about making sure when you have those responses, like not to sound sarcastic because then kids will obviously get more upset. We're not trying to heighten our children, but like really be like, oh, like Billy, I'm really sorry. Let me know when you find it and I'd be happy to play with you. And like
Oh.
genuinely like taking that away, or taking that ownership away. And so another big example that they use is there was a child, this actually happened, and he broke the neighbor's window playing basketball in the driveway in the garage window. So shattered it. And then he ran home and didn't tell mom and dad, I think is what happened. Whatever. Basically what happened is of course they found out, and the kid was like, I'm not, like, I can't afford to pay for that. Like, and mom and dad were like, oh, well, that's too bad. Like Christmas is coming up. So that will just have to be taken out of your, Christmas, and like genuinely following through with it as well. Because I think they talk about too how so many parents, they threaten and they threaten and they either don't follow through with it, or if they do, it's kind of half-assed.
Mhm.
Genuinely like being tough and coming out of the gate and like giving that tough consequence first. Um,
Oh,
which
then
I
not
think
following
I'm not a
through.
parent, so
Were
it's hard
you
to
speaking
know.
directly to me when you were talking about not following through and threatening? Because
Yeah.
it's it's me. Hi, I'm doing that. I like so much of this though. It reminds me of, I know we like kind of rag on the gentle parenting stuff a bit, but we still love a lot of pieces of it, but it reminds me of the
Yeah.
piece of that that's like the natural consequence.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you lost your shit, and so it's your responsibility to find it. I don't have to stop what I'm doing to go find the baseball glove that you left wherever you left it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think you're right, like the habit of, well,
Yeah.
where'd you leave it? Where'd you put it? Where did you have it last? Like that is going to be a hard habit to break.
Mhm.
And just shifting to, oh man, that stinks that it's lost. I wonder where it is.
Mhm.
Well, like,
Yeah. Well, and they say like first, of course, like give the empathy, be like, oh darn, that must really be a bummer. Your friends want to go play baseball. And then they say that's where they say to hand the problem back. And I'm trying to find a statement. So I have like some statements to use. Oh yes, like one time or like sometimes they'll be like, what do you think you're gonna do? Or like, don't say where you think you left it, because that's kind of
oh,
but like, what do you think you're gonna do? Or um like I hope that you're able to find it, or just something of that nature. And
yeah.
then also then this is where it also gets interesting, and I think you really have to be careful because it walks a line, is like you can share ideas, but you should get permission. So like say to your child, like, would you like me, or like, would you like what do they say? Oh yeah, would you like to hear what I would do in this situation, or would you like to hear what other people might do, or other kids your age might do in this situation? And then usually they'll be like, yeah, whatever. If they want
Oh,
help.
I like that.
And then they'll be like, some kids decide to look where they last had it, or some kids decide to other options for that. But just list some ideas, or some kids decide to take a break if they're really upset right now and find something else to do. And then just be like reassuring after that, once they kind of take in those ideas, like let those options sink in and say like, I love you and I hope that you find it. And like, I'm ready to be here to play with you when you do. Um, Something of that nature. If that makes sense.
I'm kind of obsessed with this. I'm
Yeah.
searching for shit right now. Currently, there's a lost toy that we've talked about every
Mhm.
day, and turns out that my son forgets that it's lost until it's bedtime, and then it's emergent
Yeah.
that this is lost and we need to find it.
Mhm.
And I don't know where it is. I didn't move it. I didn't touch it. Whatever. I've too many kids to keep
Yeah.
track of all of their crap. So
Yeah.
I really like I do this in therapy with adults all the time. Like I put the problem solving back on them.
Mhm.
And I mean, it just hasn't occurred to me to do that in this way for them. Like I do exactly what you said. Like, where did you have it last? Where did you whatever? Like I'm putting myself into that every time, and it's way more work. So I feel like having this like lets us be able to be a step back from it and just like, man, that's hard.
Yeah.
What do you think you're gonna do?
Another one that I kind of love, but I think would be really hard, is that they talk about, and this one I think is more with younger children, but say they're not going to sleep, or your older kids aren't doing chores or something of that nature, and you have something planned coming up, whether it's, well, we'll use the chores one first. Say like they're not doing their chores, you're only supposed to ask once. Say, or just say, Billy, do you mind dusting and vacuuming the house for me today? Yeah, sure, mom, dad, whatever. Doesn't get done. And then 3 hours later, Billy needs a ride to his best friend's house. The love and logic way would be like, oh, well, I see that the dusting and vacuuming isn't done, so I'll have to do that first, and then I might be too tired after because I've also been doing all the other cleaning to bring you. So we'll have to see. And then usually the kid would be like, no, 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 I'll do it.
Mhm.
Or like if say you've already done the cleaning for the child, say, oh well, I need to take a nap because I did all the cleaning today, and then maybe I can bring you They say that this one's successful with like younger kids is because a big struggle for parents is children not sleeping, which that one is hard too because sometimes it's genuinely not them trying to misbehave. It's genuinely that they can't sleep. So you don't want to get mad at them for a biological issue. But essentially, if they're messing around or something and they won't go to sleep, this one is more fitting is say you have something planned the next day, you're going to go to the park or whatnot. When you wake up don't threaten when you're trying to get them to bed that night. Like, we're not going to go to the park tomorrow. Just, continue to put them to sleep. The next day, Mom, we're going to the park. Hopefully you would say, oh, well, I didn't get that much sleep last night. So because I was trying to help you go to bed and you were being goofy. And so I don't have the energy to go to the park today. So it's putting those choices back on your child. Again, I think it's really hard.
My gosh.
Yeah. So it's just like really sticking firm and like sticking to it and like dealing with the meltdown, which then that's kind of where the power struggle aspect of love and logic comes in. Because usually there's going to be an argument. So
For sure. For sure.
I'm curious, like, what you two think about this as parents, because I'm not a parent. Is it something that seems applicable? Does it seem like easier said than done?
All of that.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
everything with parenting is easier said than done. Actual execution is hard as fuck, even if the idea of it is like super simple. Like, yes, get yourself dressed and ready for the day. Okay, super easy. Do that with your kids at home? Fuck, no.
Yeah.
Like, easily. But I feel like when you were just talking, my mind was a little bit blown because I was like, wait, there can be consequences. Like, I can be too tired to like do
Right.
what we had planned.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also the hard part with that is like it's also a consequence for me then.
Right.
Like, they'll be cranky. We won't get out of the house. I'm stuck with them, etc., etc. So that's where I get stuck with it a little bit is like, how do they have a consequence that is not also making my life 100 times harder?
Is that even like, as you say that, like, is that even possible? Because we're so emotionally invested in them, like we're so connected to everything they feel that like, I mean, it's kind of like extinguishing behaviors like we talk about in therapy with our clients is like, yep, the short term is that this is going to be harder until you make it a habit, and then the hard decreases because this is just your new norm. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't like going to the park. I am, and you
Yeah.
listen to so yeah, that's the thing. I think for Miranda and I, like, we really, really, really don't sleep that much. And I think we both gaslight ourselves with that guilt narrative of like, you have to take care of your kids first. Don't consider your needs at all whatsoever, period. End of sentence. And thinking about like, oh, we could say like, well, actually, you came into my room 4 times last night and I didn't get a lot of sleep. So I'm too tired to go to the park. That blows my mind.
Like,
Like,
we're
so-
allowed to do that? Are you
Yeah.
giving permission to say
Yes.
that? Because
Yes. I mean, like, because I think as parents, like, from what I've seen from my point of view, again, I'm not a parent, so I don't want to speak from that place, but it's so easy to just take on guilt because we, like Mackenzie said, we're super invested in our children emotionally. And when they're sad, we're sad. Or when they're crying and having a fit, we're frustrated. We're up here, you know? I mean, and another option, I guess, Miranda, for you that you could also think about, and I don't remember if my supervisor said this or if they said this in the video, but if say the same exact situation happens, say, oh, well, I'm too tired to go to the park today because you didn't sleep last night. so I'm going to have a babysitter come over today and I'm going to go sleep at grandma's, or I'm going to go and rest, or I'm going to go and just like do something. I don't know, because, or you could be like, I'm going to go get a hotel room. And I don't know, which is like kind of funny, but obviously you're not going to do that. But
I've done that.
genuinely,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just genuinely being like putting that on them. Or some people I know, when they're just starting Love and Logic, when their children are really struggling with behaviors, they'll promise like a big thing the next day, be like, we're going to go to Valley Fair tomorrow. Are you all really excited? But you also want to make sure it's something that you can do if
Mhm.
they do behave well. But
Mhm.
like Mall of America or something, so that when they most likely misbehave that night, you can easily take it away. It's not
Mhm.
something that's like minimal, like the park, or
Yeah.
Mhm.
so
I
yeah.
think, yeah, this goes back to kind of like the criticism of it is like you have to have resources to
Mhm.
be able to do some of these,
Mhm.
like following through with some of these consequences. Is like not everyone has the babysitter, not everyone has family around that can watch them, and not everyone has like the economic
Exactly.
status where they can do like the big Valley Fair trip or something. And
Exactly.
coming up with your own scale maybe of like what is your Everest that you could offer your kids realistically that isn't gonna like put you in debt or something. And um
Absolutely.
like we talk about like creating your support network for parents, and that's so hard. Like some people just literally have to buy all of their support because they don't have family and friends around, and then there's people who don't have either. And I love that this is a team aspect. Like you were saying, like if there you have separate homes, or you know, multiple people helping raise your kids, but not everybody is on board. Like some of these things would be really challenging. So I keep hearing Miranda's like, take what works for you, leave what doesn't.
Absolutely.
Mhm. I'm also
Sorry.
coming back, Mackenzie, to what you were saying about like the extinction stuff. Like this isn't going to be something that like you do it one time and it works. This is going to be like the short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain. Like when you, and so probably a little bit bigger kids with some of these examples we've talked about, so they can understand the like a 2-year-old isn't really going to get, when I do X I don't get this thing later, right? They're more like the immediate gratification type of thing, which you could still apply this to. But the behaviorism of you make this choice, here's what happens because of that, we deal with that. They do that a couple of times. The first few times are going to be more work because they're going to be pissed and they're going to throw fits and they're going to have feelings about it. And then if we can stick to it, then they start to learn like, oh, if I make that choice, I might not get what I want,
Mhm.
because that turns out my choices impact you.
Mhm.
And then you get to make different choices if you don't sleep at night, or if I wreck your things, or whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah, I'm thinking too about like, so research shows it takes 21 days to make a habit if you're doing something every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But for kids, it's actually quicker if you do it through play. I wonder if like if you're playing like action figures or Barbies or something with your kiddo and you model it in play, so they kind of know what you're getting at, if that's kind of a way to introduce this new way of responding to them before you model it with them. Yeah, that's how quick that synapse works for kiddos with play, because our logic brain, their executive functioning isn't developed yet. So their play brain can latch onto it a lot more
I
quickly.
think I need to play with my kids more.
Add that to the list.
That's hard too, though, because Miranda, like your kids, my kids kind of play with toys, not a lot. They would rather just be like running and kicking, but like your kids really don't play with toys.
No toys. They don't like to do make believe. Like they're like, come downstairs and play dodgeball with me.
Yeah.
Like come hit me with this. Like chase me and play tag. Like there's hardly a time when they want to play with a toy.
Mhm.
I don't need toys, we should get rid of them. But
Seriously though. Okay, the other question I have too is about, I mean, like my trauma-informed shame avoidance thing is coming up of like, how do we avoid, I mean, we can't make our kids not take on shame, but we're using kind of this validation narrative. And like when we're choosing the argument, like you said, like how do we kind of monitor, like, would this create a shameful response? Like if they make a genuine mistake and we're doing something that says like, okay, well, you have to take care of this. I mean, could that be like a shame-based response to them? Or is that kind of taken care of with the way that we're speaking to them with empathy and etc.?
Yeah, I think with this, I didn't focus too much on this, but that is a really important piece of Love and Logic is, say we'll use the example of throwing the ball through the glass window, the neighbor's garage window. Oh, Billy, really being like, I know that I seem really disappointed in you, but I still love you even though you made this mistake. Really, really hounding that into them, and not, also a big part of Love and Logic is not yelling, not raising your voice. And I think that's also where a lot of shame comes in for kids, is that elevated temper that a lot of parents have on accident or, not on purpose. And so really using those reinforcement statements. And even throughout the process, if it is a longer process of them fixing a mistake or mending a mistake, continuously revalidating them, like, I am so proud of you for taking responsibility of this. Really, I'm really proud of you. And maybe after their first few times of taking responsibility, if they have like a big mistake, taking them out for ice cream when they mend it. Like really not taking that shameful approach.
Nice.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't focus too much on that, but that is a very important aspect of all of that. Or I don't know about you two, but when I was growing up, forgetting the basketball shoes at home before a big game.
Mhm. Yep.
I will never forget when I did that. And my dad, loved him to death, but he was a temper guy back then. He had a big temper. And so he would usually jump to yelling. Whereas in Love and Logic, oh, Billy, like, well, we don't have time to drive home before the game, so I guess you'll just have to sit on the bench and cheer your team on. But you can still be a really great asset to cheering your team on, instead of turning the car around, driving 30 minutes home and getting in the car, because that's, just really putting that back on them. And they'll probably never do it again
Right.
when they see friends.
Right.
And they can't.
Yeah, there's the reduction in shame part, because we're going to trigger some people here. I forgot my cleats to a huge tournament
Oh no.
in Madison, and I grew up in Eau Claire to Madison. That is like a 4-hour drive.
You're not
My
getting-
parents were so peeved, and we went to Kohl's, we bought some new cleats. They were just okay cleats. They were what I was used to, a pretty elite athlete. And my parents still bring that up today. I forgot my fork and cleats when I was like 12.
Oh, that's so mean.
I never forgot my cleats again, thanks
Mhm.
to a little guy we call shame.
Right.
Mhm. What is it with kids forgetting shoes, by the way? Because 2 times this summer, 2 separate trips, 2 different children did not bring any shoes with us to go to the lake. No shoes, 0 pairs of shoes. And just this week, one of my kids got in the car we were going to run to the clinic quick and then drop them off at school. Got in the car, we left the house, no shoes on his feet.
Yeah.
You can't go to school without shoes, and you're not staying home with me. So luckily we were in the car and we had to go back and get shoes, but it's like, what doing?
Man, this is just like schema rocking. I'd really like to do another one of these podcasts with you because I have so much more questions about practical application. And
Mhm.
perhaps we could have all 20 of our listeners send in like some questions of like, here's a scenario. How do you respond to
Yeah.
this with the Love and Logic curriculum? Because my brain is going through all these things, probably that just happened in the last 2 days, where my response is to say, I do a decent job at validating emotions, but my problem is saying like the consequence if we don't follow through with like the thing I'm trying to get them to do. So like if you don't pack your backpack today, we're going to have to do it tomorrow when you're rushed and you're on your way and you don't want to feel rushed before school. And I do the whole like behaviorism thing. Like this is the consequence of this behavior, and that doesn't have to be my job.
Well,
Yeah.
and kids also, they learn through doing. They don't, or like a lot of the time they learn through doing, and words are harder. And so sometimes Love and Logic teaches that sometimes they do need to make a big mistake, like forgetting their homework at home the morning. And especially if they're younger, it'll be okay. I mean, if they're in high school, that's also kind of the affordable versus unaffordable. When they're younger, that's more of an affordable mistake versus teaching that when they're older. And
Mhm.
maybe it being a massive final paper for high school, that's not really affordable. And so, yeah, it's just kind of actually genuinely thinking in your head, if I choose to use Love and Logic here, is the consequence that comes out of this affordable?
Mm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's maybe another thing we could talk about is affordable situations and
Yeah.
non-affordable. I mean, I think we get like the safety piece is huge, so like that's a non-affordable, but I would imagine there's some other aspects of like, pick your battle situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
And I'm thinking like the consequence, like back to the consequence thing. Like if the consequence is going to end up being huge for me, it's probably not affordable. Like it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I'm just like, eat the thing then, because I don't have the energy to deal with the tantrum that's going to happen if I tell you no right now. So sure, eat a granola bar as I'm literally plating up your dinner. Go ahead.
Well, and that's kind of where like the power struggle aspect of Love and Logic comes in.
Yes.
Is not engaging in those tantrums, those arguments.
Mhm.
That, yeah, and that's pretty easy. I'm not sure how much time we have, but
We should probably wrap up, but I think we're gonna bookmark this because
absolutely.
we're spinning our wheels here thinking of like so many different scenarios run by you, but also just learning more about the curriculum and
I liked this as an intro though. Like it gets me thinking.
mhm.
And I feel like even just with this amount of information, I can start to have a little bit to implement. Like
Mhm.
I like the stepping back from the problem solving a little bit. Like
Yeah.
so easy to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, not easy to do, but like easy concept, right?
Yeah.
Long term easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll schedule something. And like I said, or Mackenzie said, our 22 listeners, if you
Yeah.
have questions, you can email them to justdon'tfthemup@gmail.com, or you can send them to any of our socials, Just Don't F Them Up Pod on Instagram or Facebook.
That's right.
We have
And if you're
50 Facebook followers, okay, so like
hello, famosa. I told you to come for you, Kelsey Brothers.
we're coming. We're on the rise.
They were on the rise. Hey, speaking of being on the rise, a great way to support us is to give us 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple. We're working on getting on YouTube, so check us out. We hope this was helpful because, oh my god, this was helpful for me.
Holy cats.
Holy cats.
All right. Thank you all, and have a good shit show of the week.
It's Halloween, you guys. God
Oh.
bless. Good luck. Godspeed as you go into Halloween week.
Yep. Good luck. Bye.
Bye.